Hello there, sweet friends, and welcome to the Rebookery channel. I'm Gina, and I'm so glad you are hanging out with me today. This video is going to kind of be a mashup of my journaling, what I've been doing in my journaling, and then kind of show you some stuff that I've got in my Etsy shop. So first, I think let's go to my Etsy shop first, and then I'll show you what I've been doing in my journal. Okay, do you remember this? This is my, let's see if you guys can see it. This is my, this was my sewing box. I've since turned it into, it's still my sewing box. I still have needles and all my sequin jars and my pins, my beads. Oh my gosh, I got so much stuff in here. But this is more of my fun type of sewing stuff. Like, I don't use these things all the time. I don't use beads and stuff, and these are some handmade buttons. I don't use these guys all the time, but I kind of wanted to put them all in one place, so I tucked everything into this sewing box. So let me show you my real sewing box. All right, my real sewing box. I know it's hard to see here, but this is a plastic sewing box I found at a thrift shop, and it was really inexpensive. Zoom out a little bit, see if you guys, there we go. It was inexpensive, and I came home and just was like, okay, this has got some serious potential. So this is like my sewing box where if I were to go outside and go stitch and sitting in the shade and do some stitching, or if I was to go sit on the couch and do some stitching, this is the box I would take with me. So here I've got all my needles and threads. I bought these little containers at Michael's because I wanted some vintage tin ones, but I couldn't find any, and I needed to put things away. So these got my needles and my threader and all that other stuff, and then pin cushion. And so underneath here, this is where I've got, so these are my threads. These are my embroidery floss. And so this is just something I got off of Amazon when I first started doing some stitching. And then since then, I've actually bought some of my own embroidery floss and then, put it on those little cards. This is like my bag of, what's just my bag of goodness. Like, there's just all kinds of scraps and labels. Oh my gosh, I'm addicted. I'm addicted to labels. Trims, some of these fabric cloth books that they're real cloth books, but they're really not. They're a cloth, but it's been coated with like a plasticky substance, but they're made for kids or for babies, and you know how they always put things in their mouths. And so I love using these. And so I got one of those in there, and just like I said, just some goodies. And then this is my fabric stash that I actually just took a trip, and so this went in my bag, or this went in my box, because this was the only thing I took with me, was this box. But normally, and I'll just take all this out, normally I don't load this up with fabric. I put my other things in here, so I'll show you what my other things are. So let me get that fabric out of the way. Okay, so in the bottom of my sewing box, here are my wool needlepoint yarns, and so I just have them in a bag, and I just throw those in there. This is a box that just has tags and cards, and I don't know, some button cards and some just strips of just randomness, price tags. And so if I'm looking for some little something, I just have a little stash in this box, and this is a used chocolate box. And this bag is a used curtains. Like when you get curtains, they come, well, when I got curtains, they came in a zippered bag, and so I always kept them. I also have bedspread bags too that are a little bit bigger, and so I love them. I love to put stuff in them. This is another little chocolate box, and this is just some more yarns and threads. So that goes in here. And then this goes in here. Let me see what else goes in here. So my buttons, this is a vintage little, probably a makeup case, but I put buttons in it. And so I don't know, just love that. Like that's just, yeah, I just love that. And then zip this up and I can throw this in there, squish it all down. I can even put my journal in there. And then this goes on top and boom, there you go. So why am I showing you this? Because I love having sewing supplies all in one place. And so I had these boxes. A friend gave them to me. She had a business, a photography business, and it was going out of business. And she had these boxes where she would put her photos, and they were really sturdy, nice boxes. And I've had them forever. And so I finally decided I'm going to take those boxes and I'm going to turn them into like a little sewing box where you'd have scraps and journaling ephemera and things like that. So these are in my shop. See about making you guys a little bit closer. There we go. For either stitching or for your paper journals. But I did it all around this piece of fabric right here. And I'm going to show you the fabric as I get down to the bottom. So this is a vintage floral fabric. It is one of my absolute favorites. I have held on to this thing for so long because it's just one of those fabrics where I'm just like, I don't even know how to use it. It's so beautiful. I don't even know how to use it. I have a handful of fabrics that fall into this category, but this is one of them. And I was just like, okay, it is time to start using this. So this was the basis. And then what I did was I just kind of built this kit around this fabric. So there's a piece of wool felt in here because, you know, that's a good wool, or felt is a really good basis if you're doing stitching. There's all kinds of ephemera. There's papers and cards and wallpaper and lace and tassels and look at that. Button cards, a vintage spool of thread, and then some upholstery fabric samples, some velvet, lace. Anyway, I created this kit around that, and I'm going to try to get this as pretty as I had it earlier, which is probably going to be harder said than done, but it's all centered around this fabric. And I just thought that would just be like, if you wanted to stitch and you didn't know where to start, or you just had too much stuff and it was overwhelming, what if you just took this box of good stuff, everything coordinates, and you could do so many journaling things or so many creative things with just the supplies that are in this box. So I have two different ones. I think some of them have already sold, but these guys are the same. It's the exact same contents, maybe just a little bit different pattern on a couple of the fabrics, but everything centers around that same rose fabric. So there's two of these kits. Then I have a couple other kits that are along the same lines, only this time the inspiration was these quilt blocks, and they are hand stitched. If you remember, oh my gosh, probably 5-6 years ago when I found these, a fabric resale store was going out of business, and I got to know the owner really well. And anyway, I was able to get a lot of stuff from her store when it was going out of business, and this was one of the things I got. So I've had these, they're sitting there, they need to go to a good home. So the whole kit is centered around these two vintage quilt blocks. So buttons, I thought this would be fun, just a photo slide. Again, notions and ephemera. But there's more quilt blocks in here and quilt scraps. There's a piece of felt. There's another quilt. There's part of a quilt square. Here's an actual like puffy quilted square. Here's a couple of blocks. This is a scrap. I love this as a crazy quilt, and there's some feed sacks in there. These little teeny tiny little, probably came from a needle kit or a sewing kit. And so there's 2 of these guys, and again, I'll try to get this folded up so it looks nice and neat. And there's everything, you know, coordinates with that quilt block. Okay, so now let's talk about my fabric journal. So I'm still working in my fabric journal here. I added a little something to the cover. This was just from a vintage quilt block, and this was some fabric that's really old, and I just stitched it, and you can see my stitches. They're so messy, but that's how I stitch. I don't have anything, no special stitching here. And then I love how it looks on the back. I'm okay with my stitches showing, but again, you know, some people aren't, and I could always cover that up if I wanted to. What else have I done? So this is a piece that I've been working on, and here are those children's cloth books. And so I have some fabrics and some cloth books, and I was just trying to build this up. I got a little bit of trim here. And so what I did was I just laid all these down, and then I ran it through my machine to just tack it down. Then I'm going back and I'm doing some hand stitching. So I'm making a little house right here. Here's some felt. And you can see I'm not done. I need to attach my roof to my backing there. And there's my stitches on the back. And here's a piece I was working on last weekend. So here's the back, and then here's the front. And so I got a piece of a button card, and then this is some flannel, and this is felt, and then this is paper. And I just did some crazy stitches here, so you can kind of see my stitches are just, again, I don't have a good, you know, like I don't have a good set of stitches that I can use. I pretty much use the same ones over and over again, which is just a little straight stitch. Sometimes I can do a blanket stitch. Sometimes I can do a French knot. It's just, I don't know. I have to think too much to try and do those. And when I'm stitching, I do it for the peace and the meditation. And so to me, it's just so easy just to do that same stitch over and over again. And yeah, that's just kind of what I do. And I'm okay with it. I'm totally okay with it. So then this is a piece of a little golden book, and I'd actually run it through my die cut machine, and that's how it got these hearts. And so I didn't throw this away. I've held on to this for a while, and I thought, okay, that would be a cool little almost like a little flap in here. And so I had to stitch it down like a million times. And then here's the back of this quilt. And I'd been wanting to start incorporating some photographs into my journals. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Wanted to start incorporating some more paper and some more photographs into this fabric journal. And so this was a little picture of me. And what I did was I just ran this through my sewing machine, and then this is just some hand stitching. So I did a combination of sewing machine and hand stitching. I'm not done with this. I don't know what I want to put on here. I do want to put some sort of text. I just haven't figured out what I want to put on here, but that's kind of where that's going. I love this. I love all the stitches that I can see, and I love that it's just this old quilt. Here's a piece that I started, and really all I did on this was I just glued this all down just with the glue stick, because I didn't want it to, it was windy that day and I didn't want it to fly all over the place. I started doing some hand stitching, but this one is taking me a little bit longer. Over here I did some hand stitching. This is a piece from a coloring book, and then I painted it. Now I will tell you that this has been hard to stitch through because I gessoed this page. I think I did it in a video maybe. And then I went over it with let's see, I did clear gesso, and then I did white gesso, and then I attached this paper with matte medium. And so there's a lot of layers. So when I try to stitch through this, it is tough to get through all of those layers. But I love how it's coming out, and I love this oh my gosh, this thread I got, or this floss. It's this I don't know, it's like this satin floss. Oh my goodness gracious, it is amazing. And I got that at a fabric resale shop too, so it was only like 58 cents. And if you go try to buy that, it's like $3 or so. Okay, what else do I have going on in here? This is a piece that I've started, but again, haven't finished. This is, I think I've showed you guys this before, but this is another little baby's book. And then I did mostly machine stitching on this. Here's where I started to do some hand stitching. And up here I did some hand stitching. Basically, I just love these colors. It started with this fabric, and then everything else I just built upon. And I love, love, love these colors. Here's the back of, here's one that I've been working on. Again, I painted on this one, and so it's a little bit harder to get through, but I love how I did the stitches here. And then I've started to stitch this. I haven't finished it. And I'm thinking about, I have a picture of some little Instax pictures from my garden, and I'm thinking about incorporating these guys somehow. And with these, you can't, you don't want to pierce through them. So I have to figure out how to mount this on something, such as, I was thinking about mounting it here, like putting adhesive and mounting it here, and then actually stitching this into the book. So I'm kind of thinking, kind of playing around with that, but that'll be something that I have to plan out and decide if I want to do it. But I will definitely keep you updated. So yeah, this is what I've been doing, and I'm loving it. Last week has kind of been hectic, so I haven't been able to put as much time into this as possible, or as normal, or as I had been. So I'm hoping this week to get some time where I can just chill and I can stitch and just play around and just have some fun. All right, my friends, I hope you are healthy. I hope you're happy. I hope something I showed you today inspired you. And I hope you go do something creative today. I shall see you later. Bye.